Are you coming back to school with me? We could have done it all so easily.
Hi, my name is Craig Thompson Wood. I'm your host on Teaching with Board Games, here today to look at Think Up by AEG. Now, Think Up is a game very simple in concept. It's drawing a letter and thinking of what words start with that letter, but it's a little more complicated than that, a little bit more complicated than that, in that you have a theme of what it is you're going to look at. You'll see more about this when I take it to the table and show you how it's played. For now, let's just take it to the report card and I'll tell you what I think. So the number of players for Think Up, I'm going to give it an A+. It says between 2 to 10 players. This is your standard party game type of thing. But with creativity on the part of the person doing this, like as myself, I'm looking at these in the realm of education. So for an educator to be doing this as a classroom, I think there's opportunities for definitely that this could be done, either as the whole class all doing it at once or in teams or something like that. There's definitely ways that this could be done in a larger setting. I don't think you need to be limiting yourself to just 10. So for that reason, because of its really unlimited size, I would give it the A+. For learning for Think Up, I'm going to give it a C+. I think that overall, for in terms of learning, it's not really teaching anything. It's what it's doing is it's going to be bring up some memory recall and just some working your brain to remember and recall facts and things that you already know. So for example, in the game it might say, think of a plant that begins with the letter C, and the first person who can think of a plant with the letter C gets the point. That's one of the examples, and there are others which I'll show you when I take it to the table. But so it's not really teaching you about plants and plants with letter C's and things like that. So it's just, by listening to other players, I guess you could learn. Where I think it actually may be a little bit better, like that's why I put it to the C+. I would have given it just a C that was just it. But I think that there's opportunities to use this as a for teaching language. So if you're doing an ESL class, or if you're doing a class like French or Spanish or whatever language that you're teaching in your classroom, then this can be used by the students to come up with answers in that language. So if you were doing it in French and you had to think of a plant with the letter C, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but that's something you could do, right? Or if you're doing it as an ESL class, then yes, then obviously there's plants that like cactus and cornflower, and I'm sure there's others I just can't think of off the top of my head right now under pressure. But then you start to think of letters, C letter words in English for that, as you could do as in with German, Spanish, French, Italian, whatever language that you want to be learning. So that is the because of that flexibility and variability, I push it to the C+. For fun for Think It Up, I'm going to give it a B. I give it the B because it's, I tend to find that people, when we play these kinds of games and parties I have at home and things like that, I tend to find they're generally well received. And I think that doing things with the kids in school too, again, generally well received. So for that reason, I give it the B. For time for Think Up, I'm going to give it the A+. Give it the A+ because it's just 2 decks of cards. So it's just shuffling up a decks and just pulling cards off the decks. That's really it. So the setup is nothing at all. Putting it back in the box, just put the decks back together and put them back in the box. Try not to mix them up. So that's the kind of the extent of the cleanup for it. And then in terms of playing the game, I mean, it's very fast, but it's one of those games, again, that you don't need to play for a particular length of time if you don't want to. I mean, if you have 10 minutes and you want to just play for 10 minutes, then play for 10 minutes. And sometimes you don't even have to worry about the points or whatever. You can just sort of do it and see what people can come up with. It's just so flexible in terms of the time that it's great. And for that reason, I would give it the A+. For cost for Think It Up, I'm going to give it the question mark. Well, not really. I mean, I'll give it a B+. Give it the B+ right now because it's unavailable mostly. I mean, I looked at the game stores around my neighborhood. Level Up doesn't have it. X-Plan doesn't have it. 401 Games doesn't have it. Board Game Bliss was the only one that had it on their records. They were selling it for $18. Now, for $18, I mean, yes, it's just 2 decks of cards, but the cards are all specific to the game and special for that purpose. So I think it's a good price for a game. But again, when you consider how many people you could be playing with this game and how much use you're going to get out of it. I can see this kind of game being played over and over and over again, particularly in a classroom full of students. That's a fantastic value for your money. Why only the B plus then? Well, because like I said, it's just largely unavailable. So trying to find it might be difficult and you might have to pay more for it. But if you can find this like in a thrift store, score, yeah, absolutely, 100% grab it. Or if you can find other copies that somebody has that are willing to sell it, then I would recommend getting this game for your class. All right, let me take it to the table and I will show you how this game is played. So as I'd mentioned, the incredibly easy setup for Think It Up, and this is it. You have your two decks. You have your blue deck and your red deck. Now you'll notice that these cards have been sleeved, and I do recommend if you're going to be using this game, particularly if you're going to be letting the kids touch it, is sleeve them. You know, sleeves aren't that expensive, and it just adds to the life of your game. The cards don't get damaged as quickly, so do recommend that. So in the game, all that you're doing is you're going to turn over a card, object that couldn't exist 100 years ago. Okay, and then it has to begin with letter V. Okay, so now you have to make sure that your answer is a noun of some kind. So I'm thinking Volkswagen, a Velociraptor. So now if you get it, you get to keep the card, and that's your point. So sometimes you're going to get these cards that say modifier. So you have different kinds of modifier cards. Who will give more, who will be the last, who will longer or shorter. So longer or shorter, if you come up with a word, so once you have the modifier, so say it's longer, something related to music, and then you turn over the card. And so with the modifier, you need to modify, you'll have to have the yellow print ones to modify. So something related to music, so I could say volume, right? And so longer, so somebody has to think of something that is longer than the word volume in order to take the point from me. So, so say I said violin first, and then the next person says volume, and then another person, I can't think of another one. So maybe one person said vocal, then violin, then volume, right? So whoever comes up with the longest word gets to take the point, and that's how that one's going to work. With the who will give more ones, this one's interesting because the person who drew the card. So let's just do another one here. So a word that does not begin but ends with this letter, and it's L. So I might say 5. I can think of 5 words that, now you're going to have 1 minute to say this, so there's going to be a timer on this. So who will make it longer? And then, no, sorry, not longer. This is who will give more. So who will give more? So the person is going to, I'll say I can do 5 words in the space of a minute that will end with the word L. And then the next person might say, well, I'll do 6, and the next person 7, and so on. So whoever does it is going to be the one to score the points, and they're going to get 2 points for this one instead of just 1, because these stars indicate the number of points. However, if at any time with these modifiers, if you're unable to do it, you're going to take the red card, and it's a minus points. You're going to get -2 points for that, so you have to be aware of that. But that's it. I mean, you just play until I guess you don't feel like playing anymore. The rules say the end of the game is when the last card of the deck is played. That might take a while. So if you're not interested in playing that long, you don't have to. But that's pretty much what you're looking to. And like I was saying, you just sort of play until you don't feel like playing anymore. And you tally up the points, and whoever has the most points is the winner. And that is how you play Think It Up. So Think It Up is a game which, as I say, is incredibly flexible in terms of its usage in a classroom. You could be playing this as a center, where students can play amongst themselves in a center as part of a reading program, language program. It could be done as a whole class, and the class could be either everybody, sort of a free-for-all, or it could be in teams and people working together. Particularly if it's a new language, then this may be one that the students would be, appreciate working together in teams so they can help one another to come up with the answers. Or if you have like a smaller group for whatever reason, like say like in Canada, we have to sometimes the bus cancellations, and we have our class of 24 students is down to 10 students, and it's just like, what do we do today? I mean, can't really go on with our full curriculum because we're missing too many of our class. So times like that might be good to pull out games like Think It Up and just do some things which are curricular, educational in nature, but without going too far ahead with the other students on the stuff that you're going to need to reteach when they come back. So it's an option that you have. So overall, like I do think I've said it already, and if I haven't, let me just restate it very clearly. I do recommend this game. I think it is a great one for the classroom. Small size, small cost, and great fun, and I think the kids will enjoy it. So recommendation from me. So if you have any other ideas for games you might like to see on the channel, like Think It Up, like any other games that you know of, please let me know in the comment section below. I'll do my best to find those games and then put them on the channel. I always look for recommendations from the viewers, whether it be games or topics of discussion or books or whatever it is, just because this channel is meant to be helping you, the viewer, to find games and things which are going to help you as educators. And so this helps me to give you content which is going to be relevant for your use. And that is going to wrap it up for today's episode. Until next time, I am Craig Thompson Wood, your host on Teaching with Board Games, saying thanks for coming to the classroom.
Are you coming back to school with me?